Hey there, this is Zach and welcome to another episode of Lumix tutorial. In this video, we are going to cover the topic of aperture. Normally also known as f-stop, this is one of the most essential settings in your camera among shutter speed and ISO to dictate your final exposure of your image. However, unlike the shutter speed and ISO, aperture does not really exist in your camera. It exists in the lens of the camera. Essentially, aperture is the opening in a lens which the light passes to enter the camera, also known as the hole of the lens. Now, aperture also generally measure in f-stop, f1.2, f1.8, f2.8, and so on up to f22 or smaller. Yes, I say smaller. f22 is smaller than f1.2. Even though the number is bigger, because when we say smaller, we do not mean the number, but rather the opening of the lens itself. f1.2 has a much bigger hole to let more lights in compared to a very narrow hole of f22. A bigger or wider aperture also results in more bokeh in the image, the background blurry effect. We can understand this by doing a small experiment. Hold your thumb just right in front of your eyes. Now try to focus on the tip of your thumb. You will realize everything behind the thumb is blurry. And now, in order to keep focusing on the thumb, you need to open your eyes wider. Now try again, but this time try to focus on everything else. Your field of vision will be clearer. Now, your eyes will need to squeeze smaller in order to see that. Similar when you try to see something from distance, you will typically squeeze your eyes, making your apertures smaller. This is the exact same thing happening to a camera lens when you tweak the aperture value. The larger the opening of the lens, the smaller f-stop value, hence the blurrer the background. Now you understand about the concept of aperture, we can also talk a bit about different kinds of lenses. For instance, a prime lens will mostly have a wider aperture, and a zoom lens will have a smaller one. In zoom lenses, we will also see a variable aperture or constant aperture. Constant aperture will stay the same no matter how you zoom it, but variable aperture will change when you zoom in or zoom out. Technically speaking, it is always more difficult to make a larger aperture, therefore you will always find it more expensive compared to a smaller aperture lens. Therefore, a t-stop of a lens will always be smaller than an f-stop, because when the light passes through the lens, it will always lose some light value depending on the glass quality. T-stop is an absolute value, which means a t3.2 of a lens will always be the same as the t3.2 of any other lens, whereas an f-stop will result in difference of exposure when compared with different quality of lenses. f1.8 on a very expensive lens will often brighter than f1.8 for a very affordable lens. So when you choose a lens, it's good to find the t-stop when it's possible and then look at the f-stop and calculate the difference between both. The smaller the difference usually means the better the lens quality. I'm Zach, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of Lumix tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to drop below. We will have professionals answer your questions.